Hello, welcome back. We are going to continue to read the novel Lord of the Mysteries by Cuttlefish That Loves Diving, Volume 1, The Clown. Last time we read chapters 82, 83, 84, I think. Yes. So what happened was someone sought out clients' help with their divination. He was, I think, sick and wanted to check if the surgery would work. And then client pointed them to a herb store. And then we ended up with Selena's birthday, who's Melissa's friend. And I think we ended up on a cliffhanger when client noticed there was something happening. Okay, so let's continue with chapter 85, Urgency. Let me move my Lian over. Okay, chapter 85, Urgency. The strange, twisted, and the obscure fluctuation was short lived. Shortly afterwards, Klein even suspected that he was hallucinating. If he wasn't considered rather skilled at spiritual perception, it was very likely that he would have written off the abnormality. Klein frowned as he thought of his sister upstairs. He tightly held onto his cane as he went around the bathroom and hobbled to the wood house's staircase. He quickly went upstairs while following the traces with his spiritual perception before arriving at the living room besides the balcony. This should be it, Klein mumbled as he raised his hand and tapped twice on his glabella. Auras penetrated the walls and the large wooden door before entering his vision. Most of the colors were ordinary with blurry outline. However, one of them in particular was rippling with a sinister green, dark green color over its surface that slowly corroded inwards. Just as I thought, something wasn't right. Clan wore a usually stern expression as maybe it's an unusual. Clan wore an unusually stern expression as he reached out with his right hand and removed the silver chain which was wrapped around his left wrist. He held the silver chain in his left hand and allowing the topaz to dangle before him. When the topaz stopped swinging, he traced the spherical light and chanted inwardly. The room before me has danger caused by the supernatural. Normally, spirit dowsing was only suitable for divining something that was related to him or specific circumstances in a small region around him. As such, Klein described the chant in a very specific manner. The danger could affect him, and the room was right in front of him. The room before me has danger caused by the supernatural. After repeating the chant 7 times, Klein's eyes widened as he saw the topaz rotating in a clockwise motion rapidly. It was an indication that there was indeed danger caused by the supernatural inside the room, and it was of considerable danger. Selena is a mysticism enthusiast. Did something go extremely wrong when she was dabbling with some sort of ritual? What should I do? Client massaged his brows and wrapped the chain around his wrist before knocking on the door. He knocked on the door 3 times rhythmically and wore an amiable smile on his face. The door opened with a creak. Melissa, who was wearing her new dress, appeared in front of Clan. Clan, is something wrong? The girl didn't expect her brother to be here, so she was momentarily surprised. Clan responded with a smile without any sign of distress. I was just curious since I heard you girls enjoying yourselves. Sorry for disturbing you all. Melissa lowered her head in apology, feeling somewhat embarrassed. We are playing with a magic mirror divination. Selena knows a lot and Selena knows a lot and it's very fun. Magic mirror divination? Sis, why don't you I don't like the word. Why don't you girls play Charlie challenge or Ouija boards? Klein shook his head, feeling both peeved and amused. He looked behind Melissa and to the living room. He saw Selena with her beaming smile and deep dimples. However, in his spirit vision, the wine red haired girl who was holding a silver coated mirror was being encroached by a sinister dark green colors. As his mind whirled, Klein deliberated over his words and said, I won't be interrupting your game. Ah, right. Where's Elizabeth? I had chatted with her over FaceApp grammar. She mentioned that she wanted to ask me some questions. Elizabeth? Melissa sized her brother up and said in an eccentric tone to emphasize her words. She's only 16. Hey, don't let your imaginations go wild. Klein immediately explained it's a very normal academic discussion. Elizabeth is very interested in history and ancient languages. Melissa took a deep look at her brother before saying, she's inside. I'll inform her. All right. Klein took a step back and moved away from the door. After watching his sister turn around, he heaved a sigh of relief. Although it wasn't the best of reaction, he was thankful that the person in danger wasn't Melissa. He only waited for 10 seconds before a puzzled Elizabeth walked out. She asked curiously, Mr. Moretti, what's the matter? I never said I was interested in history and ancient languages. At that moment, her sentence was halted by Client's stern and solemn expression. Her nerves tightened as she seemed to sense something wasn't right. Client took a few steps diagonally as a gesture for Elizabeth to hide partially behind the door. The girl with the chubby baby fat was influenced by the sudden serious atmosphere as she unknowingly followed. As you know, I'm a mysticism enthusiast. Client halted and turned around, speaking directly to the point. Elizabeth nodded and replied, yes, I even believe that you are an expert at mysticism. No, I'm only an enthusiast, but doesn't stop me from noticing your magic mirror divination has turned into a problem. Clarence said with a heavy tone. A problem? Elizabeth nearly raised her voice as she hurriedly raised her hands to cover her mouth. Clarence thought for a moment before saying, I know words alone will make it difficult for you to believe me. Return to the room and when Selina isn't paying attention, steal a glance at the front of the mirror, which Selina has hidden away from all of you. How do you know that she hid the front of the mirror from us? Elizabeth blurted out. According to the information from the Nighthawks, more than 90% of the time, magic mirror divination cases which involve evil share such similarities. Client smiled and said, general knowledge. When the doubtful and frightened Elizabeth returned to the room, his composed smile vanished instantly. His face looked worried. Even though we are all in the North Borough, to go from Pena Street to Zotland Street will take at least 15 minutes of travel by public carriage. By the time Captain arrives, after making a round trip, the situation might have deteriorated deteriorated to a hopeless state. If only Benson and Melissa wasn't here. But I can't deal with those hidden and unknown existences. Do I have any means to contain it? Right, Selena is a mysticism enthusiast. Her room definitely has no lack of extracts, essential oils, herbs, and other items. Just as Klein was racking his brains for solutions, Elizabeth sat next to Selena by using an excuse of discussing something with her. A girl opposite her sipped a mouthful of red wine, and under the teasing look of everyone, despite her blushing, she mustered her courage to ask, "Can you give me a divination when? Can you help me divine when I'll meet a romantic and handsome gentleman?" Serena lightly coughed twice as she rubbed the mirror's back and said, "Mirror, mirror, tell me, when will the gentleman in Yonina's heart appear?" After repeating it 3 times, she picked up the mirror and raised it in front of her. Seizing this opportunity, Elizabeth suddenly turned her body and stretched out her head to take a glance. According to her expectation, she felt that she would see Selena's face and half her face. However, the only thing she saw was Selena. The tiny mirror only had Selena, and it was Selena's entire body. The mirror was completely pitch black, and with Selena standing in the middle with a cold expression. Elizabeth trembled all over as she lunged backward and leaned against the sofa. She momentarily forgot to breathe. She involuntarily trembled and, without giving an excuse, got up immediately, stumbling to the door. She didn't even dare to turn back to look at the beaming Selena. Yonina's gentleman will appear on a Sunday of the second week, half a year later. Amidst giggles, Elizabeth opened the door and left the room to see Klein, who was standing in the shadows of the wall lamps in his tuxedo and half-top hat. Mr. Moretti, she stammered in a daze. Klein calmly smiled. Don't disturb the girls and ladies inside. Infected by his smile, Elizabeth calmed down significantly. She extended her hand and closed the door as she quickly walked over to the wall lamp. I saw it. I only saw Selina inside the mirror. A devil like Selina, she whispered hoarsely. Indeed, Klein's expression turned serious as he asked in a deep voice, do you know which is Selina's bedroom? Do you know where her mysticism items are? There. The mysticism items are in there as well. Elizabeth didn't hesitate to point at a room diagonally across. Klein held his cane and walked over, opening the unlocked wooden door. Under the street lights and the crimson moon's illumination, he turned a valve and lit a gas lamp. A pale yellow light glowed as he swept the area and found the bottles of extract, flower essence, boxes of herbal powder, candles, and amulets. These items were placed on tables or nearly arranged inside a rack. The names were given on sticker labels. After confirming the items, Client said to Elizabeth, who had followed behind him, do you want to save Selina? Yes. Elizabeth subconsciously nodded before asking in a daze, will it be dangerous? A certain amount. After I am only a mysticism enthusiast. Client replied frankly, a certain amount of danger. Elizabeth pursed her lips tightly for a few seconds before saying, is there anything you need from me? Client smiled warmly her. As he comforted her. Don't be nervous. Now, all you have to do is pretend to return as though nothing had happened. Return to Selena's side 5 minutes later. Remember, 5 minutes later, tell Selena that you have a pleasant surprise and bring her to me. Knock on the door softly, one long knock and two short ones. Following that, well, leave it to me. Elizabeth thought over silently before nodding seriously. All right. Seeing her return to the living room, Klein glanced at his pocket watch. He closed Selena's bedroom and quickly cleared the desk. Then he picked up the items needed and placed them on a chair. Immediately following that, he picked up two faint candles with light aroma. He placed them on the upper left and right corners of the desk. They were symbols representing the Lady of Crimson and the Empress of Misfortune and Horror. Clan planned on holding a ritual here to borrow the Evanite goddess's power to ward off the mysterious and unknown existence that was affecting Selena. As he was only sequence 9, the ritualistic magic he knew wasn't strong enough. In order to succeed, he needed Elizabeth to lure Selena into a sealing circle in the vicinity of the altar. Therefore, he needed to consider situations in which Selena might notice and resist. Due to these reasons, Klein planned on using suspension style ritualistic magic. This footnote on the games Klein mentioned earlier, a paper and pencil games using held or balanced pencils to produce answer to questions they ask, and a board with letters, numbers, and other signs around its edge, to which a planchet, moving a pointer or upturned glass moves supposedly in answer to questions from people at a seance. Chapter 86, Prayer. Suspension style ritualistic magic referred to the termination of the ritual according to Beyonder's judgment. They could finish other matters first before returning to continue the ritual. By doing so, it was possible to gain the desired effects. This was a technique produced over 1,000 years of ritualistic magic development. After all, many high level ritualistic magic required multiple steps. The duration ranged from an hour to half a day before finishing. It was difficult to ensure that no one disturbed them during the entire process or that there wouldn't be any accidents. After gaining lessons from various predecessors through blood and tears, gaining feedback through each failure, being able to suspend ritualistic magic became mainstream at the higher levels while also indirectly affecting lower level rituals. However, being able to suspend a ritual didn't mean the rituals could be suspended at any time. one had to abide by the mysticism theory and grasp the corresponding technique. If not, the failure of the ritual was unavoidable. It could even result in a terrifying backlash effect. Based on client's understanding, once one gained the attention of a particular divinity and the divinity was waiting on the contents of the request, to suddenly say, "Wait, I need to use the bathroom," one can only be congratulated since they might never need to go to the bathroom ever again. Clients heaved a sigh of relief as he composed himself. Even though he had held many luck enhancement rituals and had even designed a corresponding ritual that made an attempt at justice and hangman, this was his first actual ritualistic magic that abided by the rules. After looking at the silver inlaid cane by the side of the bed, Klein picked up the third candle and placed it in the middle of the desk to represent himself. He placed the silver bowl that Selina used for rituals in front of the third candle and placed the axe with a secret emblem. On the left were extracts and essential oils of the moonflower, slumber flower, and other plants, while on the right he placed a plate of salt, a small silver dagger, a piece of fake goat skin, and a quill that was dipped in ink. Luckily, Selina had a complete inventory. Otherwise, he wouldn't have any way to complete the preparation. As for the moderately fast rituals that old Neil could perform, they were not something a seer could do. From the looks of it, Serena is quite an experienced mysticism enthusiast. Yes, if she was inexperienced, then she wouldn't have gotten into such trouble. She was only 16 and had been exposed to all of this for at least a year. Who guided her? Ideas flashed through his mind as he picked up Selena's cup from the bed. He poured plain water into it and placed it before the coarse salt. He took out his pocket watch and popped it open. He didn't delay any further after taking a glance at it. He traced layers of spherical light in his mind and quickly entered cogitation. The room was filled with floral fragrance, was suddenly subject to a formless whirlwind. Clan put away his pocket watch, and his eyes suddenly turned darker, from brown to black, as though he could see through one's soul. He extended his palm and laid it against the candle on the top right corner. He chanted inwardly, "Ebonite goddess, you are the lady of crimson." As he chanted, he extended his spirituality and rubbed the candle wick. After a couple of moments, the candle suddenly lit up, and there was a tranquil blue inside the dim yellow light. "Ebonite goddess, you are the empress of misfortune and horror." Just like he did before, Clan successfully lit up the second candle on the top left corner. "I am your loyal guard, the shield that defends against danger in the dark night, and the long spear that stabs at evil in the silence." Whoosh! The third candle that symbolized Klein began to burn. The flame was still. He picked up a small silver knife and mimicked old Neil's motion. He used incantation, coarse salt, and plain water to fulfill the purification. Then he let his spirituality that he had gathered spewed out of the tip of his the silver dagger and naturally merged them as one. With the silver knife in hand, Klein walked around the bedroom, kneeling when he came to the bed, and sealed the area with a formless barrier. A light from the street lamp outside the window suddenly disappeared, but the red light was still shining through quietly. Klein returned to the study desk and picked up the quill. With the spirituality and ink, he drew incantations and symbols to ward off misfortune. When all of that was finished, he put down things he was holding. Then he trickled a drop of extract, flower essence, and essential oils on each of the three candles. A faint fog filled the room, which suddenly possessed an additional hint of mystery. Next, he burned a few types of herbs before taking a step back from the mixture of fragrances and began reciting the corresponding incantation in the suspension magic, ritualistic magic. Standing higher than the cosmos and the eternal that is eternity, the Ebonite goddess, I pray for your loving grace. I pray for you to show your loving grace to a devout believer of yours. I pray for the power of crimson. I pray for the power of misfortune and horror. I pray that you will cleanse your devout believer Selena vowed from evil's corruption and be safe from danger. I pray that you would wait for a moment that for that unfortunate girl. Moonflower, a herb that belongs to the red moon, please bestow your power to my incantation. Slumber power, a herb that belongs to the red moon, please bestow your power to my incantation. After reciting the incantation, Klein closed his eyes and repeated it 7 times in his heart. He saw that there was nothing out of ordinary at the altar. He then lifted the silver dagger again and took a few steps back. Took a few steps back to the door of Selena's bedroom. Tapped his chest in 4 spots, forming the shape of the crimson moon. He then turned around and raised his silver dagger. His spirituality spewed out from the tip once again and sliced open the shape of a door in the formless wall. Klein knew that even if he opened the door at that very moment, wouldn't affect the tranquility and the holiness of the altar. He took out a, he took out his silver vine leaf pocket watch that had an intricate pattern. He checked the time and went through the process that was to happen in a few moments. In the living room on the second floor, Elizabeth's body was quivering as she lifted her head from time to time to check the wall clock. She was counting down in silence under the illumination of the 2 gas lamps. It's almost time. As she spoke softly, she took a sideways glance at the lively girl with long wine red hair. Her dimples were deep and her smile was bright, and she gossiped well with all her friends around her. But the more everything looked normal, the more terrified Elizabeth felt. The cold and terrifying Selina in the mirror seemed to be in her head, and she couldn't wipe the image away. I can't wait anymore. I have to take action now. Elizabeth suddenly stood up. Before everyone's shocked gazes, she smiled and stuttered. Selina, I have a surprise for you. Follow me out for a bit? Really? Didn't you give me a birthday present already? Selina flipped the mirror the other way around and stood up in surprise. A surprise will not have any signs. Elizabeth felt that she had no talent in acting at all. Without saying another word, she walked towards the bedroom door first. Serena followed behind with a confused smile. Melissa looked at her 2 best friends leaving and unconsciously knitted her eyebrows. Is acting so strange today. She started acting even stranger after she met Clan. She suddenly ran out earlier and said she needed to use the bathroom. But why did she look so anxious? Serena's bedroom entrance. Elizabeth took a deep breath and said to the girl in front of her, "Let's go to your room." Elizabeth, you seem to be very afraid and nervous. Why? Selina looked puzzled at her good friend as she noticed her body trembling constantly. Excitement. Yes, excitement. Elizabeth shot a glance at the mirror in Selena's hand as she turned her half body around to knock on the door with a long knock, followed by 2 short successive ones. Why are you knocking on the door? Selena was baffled even more. Creak. The bedroom door opened. Dressed in his black tuxedo and half-top hat, Klein appeared in front of the 2 girls. A pleasant surprise? This is a pleasant surprise? Selena's mouth turned agape as she felt perplexed. At that moment, Klein suddenly reached out his hand and grabbed her by the wrist. He pulled into her room as Elizabeth stood rooted on the ground. Simultaneously, Klein's silver dagger struck forward as he spewed out his spirituality, which quickly mended the door-shaped passage. The invisible spirituality wall sealed off the room, insulating Selena's screams within. Bang! Klein suddenly closed the door. Without even looking at Selena, he rushed to the desk. The wine had. Why do I have to describe it like that? The wine red haired girl stopped screaming as she looked up and surveyed the room. Her gaze rapidly turned cold as her skin was mottled with paleness. Her fingers rapidly grew sharp fingernails. At this moment, Client had already returned to his cogitation state. He trickled a drop of moonflower and the essential oil into each candle as he chanted loudly, "Supreme Lady of Crimson, great empress of misfortune and horror, I pray for you to bestow your living grace. Show your loving grace to the lost lamb Selina would. While chanting, he picked up the fake goat skin and pushed it onto the canter representing the requester. He felt a cold wind blow behind him as immense energy assaulted his body. The goatskin was ignited and Clan threw it into the silver bowl. Then he crouched downwards in according to his preparation to dodge that lethal strike. The wind howled furious, the wind howled ferociously, and Clan felt the uncontrolled outpouring of his spirituality surging like the currents. He saw the goatskin burning in the tiny silver bowl, burning in silent darkness, and he heard heavy items landing on the ground behind him. Two sounds followed one after another with almost no breaks in between. Wisps of dark green gases plunged into the silver bowl and vanished into the illusory darkness. Client rolled to the side and got up. He drew his revolver from his underarm holster. However, he saw that the adorable red-haired girl Selina had fallen to the ground and silver-coated mirror had shattered into countless broken pieces on the carpet. Those scattered pieces didn't reflect Serena but showed the ceiling and Client's silhouette. Then, through spirit vision he had left active, Client saw the wicked dark and green in Selena's aura vanish completely. Everything returned to normal, but she seemed more frail. He had just relaxed when he felt a sharp, throbbing pain in his glabella and his head. The pain spread all over his body and made him want to roll around on the floor. Clan held his fist tight, and the veins on the back of his hand popped and became black. It looked like moving worms. Simultaneously, he heard a silent scream and whispers that ripped at his mind. It took him nearly 20 seconds to survive the ordeal. His forehead and vest were soaked in cold sweat. The ritualistic magic I used sucked up all my spirituality and almost made my beyonders powers lose control. Clan made a rough guess at the situation. That also made him notice that he had digested quite a bit of remaining energy in the potion. Based on his calculation, if he had the strength at the time he consumed the potion, he believed that there was no way he could have survived the ordeal. He could have become a monster straight away. Acting is quite effective after all. Clan tapped his glabella and wiped away his sweat. He turned towards the altar, tapped his chest 4 times, and said aloudly, "Praise the lady." Following that, he extinguished the candles and quickly tidied up the altar. Finally, he placed the items back into the desk and used his silver dagger to dispel the spirituality wall seal. The sound of wind echoed before subsiding. Klein let out a long sigh of relief and felt a sense of lingering fear. If I hadn't walked through the process beforehand and successfully completed the ritual, then things would have become troublesome. Besides, I still don't know who my opponent or enemy is. Thankfully, the room was carpeted, so I didn't damage my clothes while rolling. He shook his head and reached out to open the wooden door to Selena's bedroom. How was it? Elizabeth took 2 steps back and asked nervously. Klein looked at her terrified expression and took off his top hat before saying with a warm smile, "I've already corrected the mistake of her magic mirror divination. It's been resolved now." Chapter 87, Exhortation. Has it really been resolved? Elizabeth asked in disbelief. Klein smiled and nodded casually. Yes, it wasn't too hard. But that last part was a lie, he said inwardly. Perhaps it was the fact that Klein had been calm and collected all the time, or perhaps he was her only ray of hope. Either way, Elizabeth didn't doubt him anymore. She patted her chest and heaved a sigh of relief. Thank you. You truly are a trustworthy gentleman. I was scared senseless just now. How is Selina? Is she fine now? She might remain unconscious for the next few minutes, but she's completely fine now. Oh, and 2 or 3 days of weakness is to be expected. Client suddenly had a stern expression on his face as he asked, Who taught her mysticism? Didn't he tell her about the basic taboos? Elizabeth straightened up a little more like a student who had been scolded by her teacher. She thought for a moment before saying, Selina once mentioned her teacher is Hannas Vincent. She met him a year ago at Divination Club at Hove Street. Hannas Vincent, on the surface, he didn't seem to teach any questionable magic mirror divination, but he has been secretly teaching dark divination. If I knew about this earlier, then I would have reported it to Captain and have raided him earlier. Clarence felt some regret as he asked in deep voice, was he also the one who taught Selina magic mirror divination? Clan was left with the lingering fear because this matter had nearly affected his sister Melissa. Elizabeth nodded cautiously. Yes, but Selina had tried magic mirror divination a few times without any success. Oh, today she told me that she had a peek at her teacher's hidden incantation and that there would be no problem. She was basically an expert at courting death. Clan massaged his temples to alleviate his headaches. Do you still remember the incantations she recited? Well, although Hannas Vincent had not voluntarily imparted the dangerous knowledge to Selina, it's obvious that he had been experimenting with it to extend an invitation to a mysterious unknown entity. This would have become a problem sooner or later. It has to be dealt with quickly before it gets worse and becomes a problem for someone else. I remember a part of it, Elizabeth recalled. She recited it in Hermes. As you know, I was only exposed to Hermes just recently. All I remember is her using terms revolve, spirit, creator, and grace. Creator? The true creator? Many underground mysticism enthusiasts believe in this ancient entity revered by many secret organizations. Yes, yeah, an entity that appeared 1,000 years ago during the early stages of the fifth epoch. Clan nodded amidst his thought and said, remember to ask Selena about the entire incantation after she wakes up, and then find an opportunity to tell me. All right, Elizabeth replied without any reservations. But she immediately asked, feeling a little confused, Mr. Moretti, why don't you ask her yourself? I don't want to let Melissa know that I enjoy mysticism. Can you help me keep the secret? Klein asked in return. Elizabeth bit her lips, her eyes sparkling. No problem. Melissa prefers machines to mystery. She likes logic over instinct. Klein placed his hat in front of his chest and bowed gentlemanly. Thank you for your understanding. As for Selina, you do know that she is not someone who can keep a secret. A more accurate description is that she likes to share secrets with others. Elizabeth agreed. Clan put on his hat and thought for a moment before saying, remember to tell Selina after she wakes up that she suddenly fainted and shattered her mirror. I think her memory probably stopped at the point when she began the magic mirror divination. Seeing Elizabeth nod, he put on a stern expression once again and said, remember, be it divination or trying other mysticism ritual, do not pray to any other entities other than the seven orthodox divinities. You should immediately burn those type of incantations and stay far away from anyone disturbing those materials. If I hadn't noticed this in time, Selena would have turned into a monster or an evil spirit in 10 minutes, and everyone here would have been killed, myself included. Thinking about the ice cold Selena in the mirror, Elizabeth had no doubts about what Klein had just said. She sighed with a lingering fear and said, I understand, and I'll remember. I'll also keep an eye on Selena. All right, go and take care of Selena. Klein raised his black cane and walked towards the stairway. As he walked, his eyes became darker. He took out a single penny with his right hand and flicked it into the air. Selena is all right now. Selena is all right now. Klein quickly repeated the description and caught the falling coin. He saw George III's face facing upwards. This was not a simplification of spirit dowsing. Instead, it was a simplification of dream divination. At that moment, Klein had forced himself into the state of sleep with the aid of cogitation in order to take a tore through the spirit world. The heads and tails of the coin were symbolic manifestation. Heads represented affirmation, while tails indicated descent. Great, everything is fine now. Client whirled the bronze coin with his fingers wrapped happily. This was a simplification only a seer could accomplish. Elizabeth was staring at Client's back and saw the flying coin before he caught it. Only when Client vanished down the staircase did she turn to enter the bedroom. She saw Selina asleep on the floor with shattered pieces of the mirror beside her. She held her breath and tiptoed into the room as she looked at the fragments of the mirror. She made sure that the ice cold Selina was no longer present. Instead, the fragments were reflecting the ceiling. Com- Completely as ease, it's not Melissa. Elizabeth heaved a long sigh of relief. But despite her efforts, she couldn't move Selina to the bed. Instead, she nudged her awake. Elizabeth, what happened to me? Did I get drunk? Selina asked weakly, the glow in her eyes having turned considerably dull while her eyes were filled with confusion. Elizabeth thought for a moment and replied in a serious tone. No, Selina, something happened to you. Your magic mirror divination invited a malicious entity. Is that so? Selina weakly made her way to the bed with Elizabeth's help. She rubbed her temples as she said, all I remember is when I started the magic mirror divination. Elizabeth told a half truth. You were a completely different person during the ritual. The you in the mirror was completely different from the you in real life. I was very scared. Using an excuse of giving you a surprise, I brought you to the bedroom before I snatched your mirror and shattered it to the carpet. After after that, you fainted. Blessed to the goddess, you are okay now. I don't remember anything. Celia muttered, her face pale. The more Selina tried to remember, the emptier her mind became and more afraid she felt. Subconsciously, she glanced at the desk and noticed that the placement of items was clearly different. Just what happened exactly? Selina tried hard to remember, but she could only faintly remember a man in a black suit and hat. He was not strong or tall, but he had a straight back. Selina, Elizabeth said seriously, I met a mysticism expert when I went to the underground market to purchase the amulet. He said we shouldn't pray to any entity other than the seven orthodox divinities. Otherwise, we would be sure to invite disasters. Promise me, don't try this anymore. I don't even know what if what I did could save you just now. Serena was scared, senseless. She nodded in a daze. No more. I'll never try this again. And just what did the incantation of your mysticism mean? All if I have a chance to meet the expert again, I'll ask him for you. Elizabeth asked, feigning nonchalance. Selina rubbed her temples and said, the spirit that revolves this world, the grace of the true creators, the eyes that look at fate. Client smoothed the creases and patted the dust off his clothes as he walked down the stairs. After that, he took off his hat and returned slowly to the long dining table. Where did you go? It has been nearly 10 minutes, Selena's brother, Chris asked as he folded his hands. Klein smiled and replied, to the bathroom, then upstairs to acquaint myself with the ladies. I appreciate your honesty, Chris praised in laughter. He had the red hair and short build that ran in the family. He wore gold framed glasses and had quite the personality. He was an exceptional lawyer. You wouldn't say that if you knew that I had knocked your sister unconscious upstairs. Klein replied humbly, we were merely engaging in academic discussion in the area of mysticism. He put down his hat and returned to his seat. He received his two cards as the new round started. Flipping the corner of his cards, he saw the king of spades and the ace of diamonds. Looks like I became luckier. Is this payback for doing a good deed? Client took, Client took out a coin in preparation to place his bet. Since Hanas didn't intentionally reveal the incantation to Selena, there's no need for me to urgently report this to Captain. He continued his cautious play style in the following rounds, only betting when he had a good hand. He didn't take any chances to bluff and didn't win much. When the game ended at 10:30, he had won sixpence. I won two solely and eightpence. Benson fiddled with the notes and coins in his hand. I didn't expect you to be an expert at poker, Client praised, laughing. No, I don't play often, but I know that this is the same as negotiation. You have to hide your cards and figure out the hidden cards that the people before using various means to scare or entice them. Benson hadn't finished his sentence when he saw Melissa and the rest coming down from the second floor. It's time to go home, said Klein as he glanced at his sister and her friends while rubbing his temples. The throbbing pain in his head remained. After that, Klein went to the bathroom once more and took the opportunity to walk past Elizabeth and obtain the complete incantation. Returning to his sibling, he smiled and said, "Oh, right. I suddenly remembered something. I need to head back to the company for a while. Shall we go to the Snowdland Street first? It will be quick." Oh, that's a bit different from the Donghua, where Hannah's purposely, I think, guided Selena to perform the ritual, and then there was like a big fight. Okay, we'll stop here for today. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye bye.